I presume you guys are all here for the Wellington Novice Rowing Program? It's traditionally very hard to move up to varsity, but in the meantime, I think we should learn how to row. Legs first. Body, legs, body, arms, arm, body, legs.
This body's so hard. And then yesterday, I just woke up and I had this epiphany. Like, everyone knew.
What are you looking at? See what time I have to get to make varsity. 7:59 seems doable. I mean, starting varsity in 2 sports in high school.
You're like the best novice out of all of us.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're like the best novice.
I mean, you're like the best novice out of all of us. The best novice.
You're natural.
Probably have the best chance out of all of us.
You shouldn't be stressed about school. You're the smartest in our high school.
I'm not stressed about school, and I work the hardest. There's a difference.
Relax.
I'm relaxed.
We can't be psychotic like you. Some of us have lives.
Your mistake is that you always stick to what you're good at.
You had the best time.
It still wasn't enough.
Relax.
You're like the best novice.
You gotta let it go.
Legs, body, arms, body,
Legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs. It was my fault we lost.
Give yourself a break. Relax.
Relax.
You don't understand how hard I have to push myself to be the best.
I can't keep watching you do this.
I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
You guys doing today?
Oh, doing good. Doing real good. How are you?
Good. How many of these are you doing today?
Well, a lot. You know, we're at the tail end, but for today, but we're at the delirium part where you're just like, so you know, who knows? Who knows what you're gonna get right now? Let's find out.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And Lauren, thanks for speaking with Cinema Femme twice. I appreciate it. This is going to be a little different. It's going to be a video. And Isabelle, thanks for joining. And yeah, I love this film. I watched it for the 5th time yesterday. It's almost like an addiction to like all this addiction going on. Just like addicting to rowing. I'm addicted to Novice or whatever, but I don't know. Anyway, we'll get the proper question. How did you two come together project?
Well, I mean, we were trying to find our Alex Dall, and it was just classic for me, my first casting experience, but getting kind of audition tapes coming in and watching tons of them. You know, the casting directors cull them down, and then I watched them. And right from the get-go, I mean, Isabelle's audition, she killed it. The one scene kind of that everyone had done, it was like half the people misinterpreted the scene completely. Another half people got it, you know, and she was with the half that got it, and her performance was incredible. And then she was this psychopath. She did a second scene that no one else did, which was funny because I had actually given the casting directors 2 scenes for everyone to do, and no one else had done. Everyone only did 1 scene. I was like, what the fuck? Like, these lazy fucks. Like, why isn't everyone doing the scene? And come to find out later that the casting directors had only given them the 1 scene, but Isabelle had intuitively chosen the other scene that I had also chosen. And she had all these props in her audition tapes, like since you told me like LaCroix that you were dumping on yourself for sweat, and had done the creepy eye makeup and that kind of level, and wrote me this letter about this relay race she had ran to Las Vegas, and then meeting her in real life, a coffee shop. She had this nerdy binder with all these tabs and everything printed out, and the lookbook I had made printed out. It was just very prepared, very neurotic, very ambitious and driven, and that to me spoke to the character. So it's like, yes, she was talented, yes, she did the thing, but I saw this energy that I thought, like, that's what the character is going to need.
Yeah, that's great. And Isabelle, did you want to comment on meeting Lauren?
I read the script and then saw Lauren's lookbook, which was so well done and like handwritten with like drawings of ravens and like the statement that she had written. And I think it was handwritten actually as well on like a piece of paper. Like, it was so visually well done that I was like, who is this woman? Because I think she'll make a really amazing movie. And I remember sitting down with her after she'd, seen my audition, and I wrote that, crazy letter basically being like, hire me. And I sat down with her and we just clicked. Like, I think we both felt like we had met somebody who was just as like ambitiously obsessed with this film. And like, I think as I can imagine as a director, it's like you hope that the people that you cast care as much about the movie as you do. And I think I made it very clear that I really cared. Like, I think I would have been really heartbroken if I didn't get this role. So thank you, Lauren, for casting me.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I don't think anyone could have done the role like you, Isabelle. Like, I mean, from seeing your previous films and then just the physicality that is involved in it, I think you nailed it, which was awesome. So last time I watched this, which was the 5th time, couldn't I help but think of that ending in Black Swan when Natalie Portman just kind of jumps and she's stabbed and she's like, oh, it's finished, I'm perfect. And I felt a similar feeling to Alex and that end bit where she just, I mean, we want to get people to watch this, so I don't want to give away too much, but so I had an interesting kind of fun question for you guys based on this idea of perfection and being perfect. And so, let's start with Lauren, and then Isabelle, you can go after. I'm curious what perfection means to you. And then what you think perfection means to Alex.
Well, I will say that me and Alex, it means the same thing because Alex is a proxy. Well, at least it means the same thing as my 20-year-old, 18 to 22-year-old neurotic self, because I sort of wrote this inspired by my own years as a collegiate rower. But, and for me, as I'm getting older, it's trying to find balance. It's trying to find, for me right now, the idea of perfection is finding balance. And I am someone who is very all or nothing. And I'm, I feel like I can only concentrate. This idea that we can multitask is bullshit. We really can't. We aren't meant to do that. You're meant to be all in on one task. And so I've tried for a long time, the past few years of like, I live my life like chapters like this. I'm all in on one thing, whether it's a relationship, self sort of working on myself or a project or whatever. And I really fought for a long time to try and live in layers. If you want to be able to have all of that stuff kind of going at once, but it's just not going to fucking happen. So I don't know, like for me, perfection is I want to go all in on something. I want to fall in love with whatever I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I don't half-ass things. It's all or nothing, but also kind of knowing when to step away and take breaks. So I do, going 100 miles an hour and then going 0 miles an hour. And then you average that out and then you find balance. And that's how it works. That's my idea of it. And I think, unfortunately, too, perfection is kind of this moving goalpost. Like when you achieve something, and there's this whole, you can go into neuroscience behind it and whatever, like dopamine and how all this shit actually works. But when you achieve something, then your goalpost moves. So perfection is this constantly moving goalpost. And when the life I'm living now, my 15-year-old self would think I'm so fucking cool and that I've like made it. But of course, I don't feel content. I'm like, I have so much shit that I have to do still. I haven't lived up to and that's because the goals I have now and the idea of what is perfect now is changing. So I don't know what perfection is. Tomorrow it'll be a different thing.
Yeah, right. So. Right. Isabelle?
I would say I agree with you, Lauren. I have no clue what perfection is at all. I think I try to steer away actually from trying to attain any sort of perfection. I agree with what Lauren said. I have moments where I look around and I go, wow, look how far I've come. And then I have moments where I go, I have so many other things I want to do. And I have so many other things that I could achieve. And so it is this kind of up and down and really, attempting to find a balance in that way of, pushing for something and also letting go and allowing the universe to do its job. I feel perfection at times when I look back on something. When I look back, for example, on moments I would call perfection, I think most of those are accidents. Perfection to me was doing that scene with Danny in the bathroom. We didn't have this whole ending portion of it where she tries to like lift up my shirt and the whole thing. That was something that was improvised that ended up happening. And we ended up on the floor crying. And that to me was looking at the movie, like that to me is a moment of perfection that I could never replicate and I could have never tried to achieve. It just happened. And I think that imperfection really comes from happy accidents. And it's only looking back that you can be like, wow, that was perfection. But you can feel it. I mean, Lauren, Todd, our DP, Delone, and I were literally crying on the floor in the fetal position together in a huddle because we knew what we had just done. And we knew that it was perfect for what it needed to be. Yeah. So I think, you know, perfection is like a subjective accident that can happen. But I don't know if striving for perfection can really be obtained.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so great. Yeah, so my next bit of question is the dysfunctional relationship that Alex has with rowing. And I love, Lauren, how you put together like classic heartbreak songs with like, you know, other anxiety ridden songs or not songs, sounds. Like it's just like a dysfunctional relationship. So I want to start with you, Lauren. Can you talk about how you use sound and song to show us this relationship on screen? So I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things going. There's the score, there's the songs, and then there's the sound design. And I think for me, you know, I like to punch. I'm not a subtle filmmaker. I don't think, maybe one day I will be, but I'm not trying to be subtle. I like to punch people in the face. I want people to feel like they're going on a ride. And this isn't a literal sports film in the sense that this isn't an inspirational sports film of like, we're going to win the race, we're going to get the gold medal. It's like, fuck that. This is psychological, emotional experience. And so it's about this relationship between a girl and a boat, and it's a falling in love and falling the first time making love and beautiful and all that, and the toxic descent. And so I wanted to subvert the expectations of what you expect when you're doing an action scene, having a fucking 1960 love song. Like that to me, the song, it's not about the action, it's about the emotion. This is what she's feeling in this emotion. And then as the film goes on and this relationship becomes more and more twisted, like literally later when she's kind of at her lowest point and like not sleeping and just exhausted and broken down and battered, I really fucked with the music and the song and like made it twist. You kind of bended it and it gets all warbly and stuttery and things like that. And because that's where the state she's in. And then two, working with the composer, Alex Weston, who that was an 11th hour discovery, happy accident. I fell into, because the score was the one thing about the film that I had no clear idea of until like fucking August, before all the films were, all the festival deadlines were happening. But with him, like he came in, and also working with the other editor, Nathan, like there's kind of two training montages that happen in the film. And originally both of them were songs, and talking with Nathan, we were like, this feels repetitive, it feels like the same thing. And then he put in a score track under one of the montages, and I was like, holy fuck, like this is it, this is the thing that we were missing. Okay. And so then having that score track, which is very energetic and very driving, whatever, as she's going through this badass thing, and then as she's starting to kind of like check out, and you see as she's rising up the rowing world, she's kind of going down everything else in her life, like fucking up the score and like twisting it, and it gets muffled when she's unconscious, or it gets all warbly. Like that was really kind of fun for me, because it really became all about the psychological experience. And two, using sound the way we use visuals, of making the audience feel what she's feeling, like the whole world's dropping away. You hear her breathing, it's very, very present. We, you know, surround sound, doing all this crazy shit, if you can see in a theater, which would be the goal for anyone who can. Yeah, like really not trying to being fucking, even when you're doing the race in the beginning, your first race, like you go from the drumming when you're outside watching the boats from outside of it, it's the drumming, but when you're in the boat, it's this fucked up song that she's hearing in her ears. Like that for me was the fun. It was always the thesis statement of where is the character emotionally, and that really drove the sound, like what we were hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And Isabelle, can you kind of talk about how you showed, I don't know, your love for rowing, so because you put a lot of physicality into it, and also I know you did a lot of training, and that was involved with your rowing relationship relationship. So can you kind of go into that? Yeah.
No, Lauren, from our first meeting, made it very clear that there was not going to be a double, that I was going to be in the boat every day and I was going to be rowing. And I was like, this is amazing, so exciting. And then you're actually like waking up at 4:30 in the morning in the pitch black darkness, and like just trying to like get your clothes on in the dark and run out the door and get to the marina. And then you're on a boat in pitch black darkness getting screamed at from your coach while you're just like trying to do a good job, and you're thinking you're doing a good job, and then you're being told you're not doing a good job. And then I had like a 30-minute nap and snack basically before I was back on the water for another 3 hours. So I'd be done with 6 hours of rowing. I'd have my second breakfast, and then I'd be, driving in rush hour traffic across LA to go lift weights with a trainer so I could gain 12 pounds of muscle for this role. And I really fell into this mindset of being an athlete. I felt this pressure. Obviously, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to look convincing when Lauren put me in a boat next to a bunch of college students who've been rowing since they were, kids basically, to get into college. And I knew that I had to be able to look like I fit in on that boat, let alone look like I was, fighting for one of the top spots in that boat. And so I really kind of ended up adapting this sort of like numbers game of being, in the mind of an athlete, where it's like I was trying to be better than I was the day before. And I was constantly checking out how I was doing. And if I wasn't rowing in the morning in the water, or I didn't feel like I had hard enough a workout, like say there was a day where I felt like I didn't do as good as I could have. I mean, it was like this punishment mentality where I'd be down, I'd be using the erg that Lauren gave me from her garage. She gave me an erg to practice. I'd be erging in the middle of my bedroom, for an hour, just to be like, why did you mess up today? Why didn't you try as hard? Why don't you feel as tired as you did? And so I really felt like I was, going through the same kind of obsessive mentality that Alex was, at the same time that I was like physically transforming into this person. I mean, it really felt like an all-encompassing experience, both physically and emotionally. Because at the end of the day, when your hands are bleeding from your blisters getting popped and your legs are so sore and you're absolutely exhausted, there's no filter hiding what you're actually feeling. And so I really realized in training before we even got on set that this was like my biggest asset to this performance, and that I had to, by all means possible, even as I was physically getting stronger, maintain this kind of sense of exhaustion, because that is what Alex is going through. And by the last week of filming, I mean, Lauren and I were laughing at photos that we took, like selfies we took on set. You can't even see the whites of our eyes. I mean, we were so exhausted.
Oh, wow.
And I had the best time making this movie, but I remember the moment I wrapped, the moment I got on the plane and went home, I slept for like 2 weeks, and I haven't rowed since. I have not gone.
You're like, I'm done.
I mean, I would like to try it, but I remember actually when we were in Arkansas for one of the film festivals that we were in, one of the local rowing teams came to see the movie, and they were like, come rowing with us in the morning. And I was like, what time? And they're like 5 a.m. And I remember my alarm going off in the morning, and I was like, no, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if I want to today.
Yeah, my God, I give you credit. I actually have this small desire to want to learn how to row, but then I also know it's very intense. So if I cross that line, I don't know what happens. So but yeah, this movie, I don't know if it's an inspiration for that, but yes, I'm gonna move on. Yeah. So I have a couple more questions. Let me just see the chat. Okay, so I think I can get one more question in, and that question is, of our audience is like emerging female artists, like emerging female filmmakers, emerging women in film. So do you each of you, could you give advice for, I guess, novice filmmakers or actors, specifically women in the film industry, your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, look, I knew I wanted to be a director when I was 15. I saw Kill Bill, and that film fucking blew my mind. And I was like, I'm going to be a director. Fast forward 2-3 years, I went to college, and I was immediately hit with imposter syndrome because I grew up and I was a redneck. I grew up in a small Texas town. I get to my school in a big city, and all these kind of like a lot of rich kids, mostly dudes. They all seem to be super confident and have all the cool equipment and the gear and then the Mac computers and the da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, I can't fucking be a director. Like, I can't go against these guys. So I hid that kind of desire and went to post-production, which I also love, which is how I kind of found my first career. But then going up into sound, doing sound, and I worked with a lot of my heroes, sort of actors, directors, editors, sound people, producers, whatever. Worked at a really high level. And the thing about that is like, I also worked at the asset in production. So I saw how all the films kind of finished and came together. But like the thing that I learned that really gave me the confidence to make this film was like, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Not really. Like, we're all figuring it out. It's all like, that's all you have to do. The secret to this business is being able to take challenges and being able to take surprises and just adapt and keep going. And I think too, the other thing is like, I had this idea in my head that everyone doing this was going to be a creative genius. And I met a lot. I mean, there's a couple creative geniuses, but for the most part, people working in this industry at a really high level, they're just decent people working hard with experience, and that could be you as well. And also, frankly, there's some fucking idiots who've done I'm like, I don't know how you're in this room right now, give us no, but hey, you're here. And if this guy can be here right now, maybe, you know, like, who's to say that I can't be making a film? And so I guess that would be my advice for anyone is like, don't let the kind of imposter syndrome, you know, take over.
Yeah, that's great. Isabelle?
My advice would be just keep going. I mean, keep rowing. Truly though, I mean, I've been doing this for a really long time. I mean, I'm only 24, but there's nothing that I would do different. I love being an actress. I love stepping into other people's shoes and playing different characters. And I love growing through the people that I play. And being able to work with directors like Lauren is a dream, because you walk away from something feeling like you've gained so much more knowledge in yourself, feeling like you grew as a person, and feeling like you told a story that means something to somebody. And this story means so much to me. And I know that it is already and will continue to mean a lot to people who watch it. Because I've never seen a movie about ambition and grit like this, and really about the internal struggle that one goes through that process. And yeah, I would say just keep going. I think it really is an up and down thing, whatever career path you choose. And, you know, I don't mean to be like, you know, I've been around a long time, you know, but I have seen people come and go from this industry. People, you know, hit these massive peaks. And I know that I'm really lucky that I've been able to work with such wonderful people, and also been able to like have a normal childhood in life, which is really lucky for someone who started so young. So I'm just excited to keep going. And I think resilience is a really big quality to have. You can have natural talent, but the world's going to kick you around a lot before you see anything for it. And so you got to be willing, you know, not listen to the noise and just keep moving.